Welcome to GameFellas, the retro to modern gaming podcast, episode 12.
It took a while. It's like
12. It's
Wait,
12.
wait.
Oh, roll.
In the
It's
notes.
GameFellas,
In the
not
notes.
MathFellas.
So here we are. We are doing our games of the year, our favorite games of the year, and I guess if anyone wants to, their worst games of the year. But what makes this very special is that we finally have all 7 of us on at the same time. Because during episode 1, we were all supposed to be here, and Justin fell asleep. And guess what? Justin fell asleep again tonight, but he's here. Right, Justin?
Yeah, and in more than just spirit.
he's like,
yeah.
yep, I'm here.
You didn't think about it for a second?
I am. I've been on like a sabbatical for months, and now I'm back. I promise.
Yeah, actually, it's been crazy lately. But all right, cool. So we got everyone here. We got Derek Moore, we got Nate Rowe, we got Mark MSX, who we don't know his last name because he won't tell us. We got Tony Brazel and Soren and Justin Day. So we're going to start with what we've been playing lately. This might take a little while because there's 7 of us, so bear with us. But why don't we? This is also the first time we've had Nate on as just a regular Joe here. He was producing for a while. Now he's on just as a game fella. So why don't you kick it off, Nate, and tell us what you've been playing lately, man?
I've been playing a variety of things lately, actually. So Red Dead Redemption 2 was released for PC, and I played quite a bit of that, and had a lot of fun playing it. But unfortunately, my PC is now starting to show its age because it has a hard time with it.
I built that PC for him like 3 years ago, just FYI.
It needs a good cleaning too, to be very honest, but it's having a hard time with it. I've been playing a lot of Smite lately here with my buddies because they all play that. It's a MOBA.
What is Smite? Tell us a little bit about that.
So it's a MOBA. It's a third-person MOBA, and the whole allure to it is you play a bunch of gods. So there's like all bunch of Greek gods and different. What I don't know if you'd say, it's not nationalities of gods, different. What's the word I'm looking for, guys? Huh?
Pantheons.
Pantheons. That's it.
Yeah, it's like different mythologies and that.
Exactly. Yeah. So you got a bunch Norse stuff, Greek stuff, et cetera. So it's a lot of fun. It's basically just like a PvP game or strategy type stuff where you're trying to take towers and stuff, action oriented. I've also been playing this game called Armello, which is it's like a tabletop game. It's a lot of fun. It's almost like a board game, but interactive and stuff.
It's amazing. Armello's amazing.
Okay, Justin likes it.
Justin likes Armello. Oh!
Yeah,
I thought Armello was a candy bar.
yeah,
Dude,
man.
a
Armello's
fun
awesome.
game. Yeah, it's such a fun game. Like there's a lot of strategy, and it's always when me and my friends play. It's always we're friends until we're not friends anymore in the game.
It's like Monopoly then.
You'll start the game off where because it's a game where you can battle. Like if you run into somebody else, you guys fight, and there's dice, and the dice outcome determines who wins the fight and stuff like that. And so some characters are more fighty, and then there's like magic spells you can cast and stuff like that. So it's really depending on which character you play and who you're going to go up against, that is going to determine how it comes out. So when you guys are like, say me, Soren, and Justin, there's 4 people to a game. So say me, Soren, and Justin were playing all together. That one Randy is probably getting fucked that whole game because we're all just going to dump our shit on him and not be nice to each other until like the whole core of the game goes, you're trying to become the king. You're trying to become the guy in the middle who slowly, there's this lion king who's corrupted, and eventually he's just going to die even if nobody like fights him. But everybody's nice to each other until it gets end game and you're trying to get that crown, and then it's like, oh, sorry, Soren, I know we were friends, but I just have to boop. And then you've just fucked Soren Day up, and he's like, I hate you, man. But
so it's like it's like a board game, like a digital board game.
Yeah,
kinda?
exactly. It's a digital board game, but I really don't think you could even play this in I don't think you could have a physical version of this game because there's
too complex.
Well, there's like stealth, and there's things that you just couldn't do in real life for sure. But anyway, I've been talking a lot, but that's what I've been playing with my buddies here recently. So
Cool. Okay. Thank you, Nate. Let's move on to Derek. What have you been playing, man?
The last few days, honestly, I've been playing the new Star Wars game, Fallen Order. I couldn't think of the name, sorry. Because I kind of like hack and slash games. And I might have tried it illegally at first, but I bought it since then.
You shouldn't admit that, dude. While we're
I was gonna
recording.
say,
I
that's
bought
not
it.
what you say on
Do you
a
want EA?
podcast.
Do you want EA up your ass, man?
Hey, here it is in my Steam library. You can see it on our thing.
Yeah. Okay.
But it's
do
a
you
pretty
think?
fun mix.
Wait a minute, wait a minute.
Is it really? Because I heard it was like Dark.
It's like Dark Souls. That's what I think. It's a lot
Well,
like
it's
Dark
hack and
Souls.
slash to me. You hack and
Yeah.
slash with a lightsaber.
But wait a
Okay,
minute.
well,
Hold on.
I mean-
Wait, Derek. Something's wrong with the universe. You're playing a Star Wars game. What the hell is going on?
Me and
here?
Tony had this exact conversation a couple days ago, and I don't
For the
care
reference-
for the movies, but for some reason, like the universe works well for games, and
Okay.
chopping stuff with a laser is awesome.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
I know that's why the movies are awesome, Derek.
No, they're not. And
Hey,
then I might have started another playthrough of Outer Worlds.
The second playthrough. Okay.
Yeah, I'm doing it on
That's cool.
PC this time, so I don't actually read the text.
Yeah, I heard that's. I've heard that's hard. I think Pam Cannot Be Tamed did a video about this exact problem, and I think Outer Worlds one she mentioned about games having the text just too small for most games for you to read. You know.
And they've released a patch since then, but I downloaded an Xbox One first because for some reason it didn't show up right on the PC Game Pass list. I don't know, maybe it came up later on, so I just went with it on Xbox One. But I'm playing this one on PC, and it does look better, but it kind of runs not too well on my computer, which is weird because I don't have trouble with anything else AAA from right now. So I don't know what's going on there.
Mm.
What
What else, man? What else? What else you been playing?
Honestly, it's about that, and then mixed in with a little bit of Red Alert 2, just because I fucking love that game, and
Just
I
because.
wanted a strategy game. And I mean, come on, Red Alert 2 is awesome. The
Mhm.
less said about Red Alert 3, probably the better. But Red Alert 2 was awesome.
Cool. Okay. Sounds good. What about you, Justin Sleepy Boy? What you been playing?
What have I been playing? Okay, so I had to actually go back through a little bit of a library to understand, because I haven't been on it for ages. And I had 2 or 3 goes where you kept asking me what I was playing, and the same answer was Xenoblades. And I kind of got to a point where I thought I need to play something else, or my back catalogue is just getting so horrendously bad that I'm never going to play anything else. And so what I hoped I would do is turn to some games that I could complete in sub 10 hours, just so I could rattle through some. So in no particular order, I played, or have been playing, Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening, the remake on the Switch, which, contrary to an absolute panning I saw it get in reviews, I thought was
Really?
Yeah. Well, it was the reason for the panning. I understood the angle. I guess I just disagreed. I think the angle was that it's a game that's got sub 15 hours gameplay in it, unless you desperately want to just wring out and rinse out the game world, and keep going round and round and round and round and round.
But I mean, it's a Game Boy game, so ultimately, did they really add anything, or is it just like a reskinning of it, basically?
Well, and I guess, look, here's my take on it, and here's the bit that was, I suppose, potentially divisive in opinion, was it's a Game Boy game. A Game Boy game wasn't designed to be an 80-hour sprawling RPG adventure. It very much was originally designed in 2 colors. One of the colors was the screen, the other was black dot, and it lent itself to 8 to 10 hours worth of gameplay with lots of bits and pieces, quite quirky, etc., etc. Now, this is always going to be a debate, isn't it? When you remake a game, are you remaking it, or are you making a new game completely based on the concept of the original? I think if you're literally just skinning it, maybe that's a bit dull. But I actually thought what they did was pretty cool. I thought they didn't just skin it; they kind of brought it to life for for a Switch audience. I think they chucked in a few things extra. There's the dungeon maker part of that, which is interesting. I think there's some other bits and pieces in there as well. But at the end of the day, I think it stays true to the original as well, which I think is where you should try and honor that type of game as well. Otherwise, all you're really doing is making a new game. So
Right.
I was
Don't
cool.
you guys know, though, that if a game doesn't have a bunch of bloated gameplay and doesn't play 5,000 hours, it's a bad game?
I mean,
You guys realize that. I have to remind you.
I need reminding regularly because I don't subscribe to it, but apparently that is the thing. You're absolutely right.
I love the reviews for shmups where people are like, "This game is not worth $40. You can beat it in half an hour. This is such a waste of money." Like, we hear that in shmups all day long. It's like,
Yeah.
you didn't beat the game right. You
Same
don't
with
beat
any
the game by credit feeding through it.
Same with a lot of platform, just short 2D platform type games. The same type of thing. So yeah, it is a weird complaint that people have. People just.
I think it boils down to the experience you want. You should know what experience you're trying to get from the game. Like that argument would be plausible for something that's supposed to have an end game. It's supposed to have content, like it's built to have like games like shooter looters or ARPGs, stuff like that. You expect something at the end when you get there, you know what I mean? Your max level, but there are some games you shouldn't expect that. And to say something like, a shmup's not worth $40, it's basically you're just not used to the genre. That like you're not getting the full potential out of the game if you think it's over, you know what I mean, at 30 minutes.
My thing is the amount of hours you get from a game should at least be reasonable for how much you're paying for. And for each person, that is going to vary some. Like, I think everyone here kind of has a varying taste in this group. We may have some overlap, of course. But one person here may like a game and say, I got everything I wanted out of it. Like me and Zach got everything we wanted out of No Man's Sky from the beginning.
Yep.
And we're going to get flamed to fuck
And
for
Soren.
that. Oh, that's true. So we're going to get flamed for it. But it's 15 hours to me is a reasonable amount. And if you look at it as an average of $10 an hour, then yeah, it's worth the money. Even at minimum wage.
But so here's the thing. Like, this is a little bit kind of off topic because I know we're obviously focusing on video games, but like I'm quite into my board games as well. And some channels that I watch on YouTube, they spoke about this issue where companies started bringing out these types of board games that are kind of categorized as legacy board games, where as you play them, you're making permanent changes to the game. And you might get to, like say you can play the game 10, 15 times, you might get to the end and then you've got a game that you can then carry on playing, or you might get to the end and then that's it. Like once you've played your 10 to 15 goes, you've gone through like a story and you've made all these changes and you've torn cards up and you've done loads of changes to the game, and you're then done. Like you can't play it anymore. And these games are coming out for like 50, 60, £70 or whatever, or dollars. And people were complaining and saying like, oh, this is ridiculous because if I buy a game, I should be able to play it forever. But then like some of the guys I watch on YouTube, like they were talking about it and saying, but these same people will then think nothing about spending $50, $60, $70 to go to a theme park for the day. You are getting, it's just like you're definitely getting your money's worth. It's just like, these people that complain about, say, like buying a video game for $20 and it's like a shmup, say, for example, and they're like, oh, well, you don't get a lot of gameplay out of this. But then the same people will go and spend $5 on a coffee. Like,
well, yeah, I also want to add too, I think it shows the changing view of video games, actually, because I think a lot of these reviewers, a lot of people start to view games as more like films and television shows than games. A good example is, let's say you buy a chess game, you buy a chessboard and chess pieces, and your review is, chess isn't a very good game because it only lasts about 30 minutes and then, that's it. It's like, well, obviously, if you try to master chess, that's like a lifelong pursuit. And so if you're trying to master a shmup, you're not doing that shit in 30 minutes. It's going to take hundreds and hundreds of hours.
Yeah, for sure.
But people want it to be like a TV show or something where it's like it just
Yeah.
goes on and on and on. So
Yeah.
So anyway, got a little off topic there, but that's fine.
sorry.
That was an interesting conversation. But Justin, back to you.
That'd
Yeah,
be a
no
good
worries. I
topic
mean,
for
What
an
else have you
episode.
been playing?
Go, just getting on my segment. I haven't been here for months, but it's cool.
Yeah.
No worries. So
Link's Awakening.
Let's move on from Link's Awakening. I got out of that what I wanted to get out of that, and the good thing is I never played the original on the Game Boy, although I actually own a copy, believe it or not. so it was brand new for me, which was quite interesting. Okay, so just a few I'm going to rattle through. I moved on to I bought a load of games when I was in America, and one is a game called Cave Story Plus. Okay, I'm getting some nods. This is good. I like nods.
it's a legendary game.
Yeah,
I've not
I mean,
played it, but I know of it.
yeah. All I can sort of say there is that it's this kind of a sort of a Metroidvania feel to a wonderfully weird storyline, which again is a game that if you want to rattle through it, enjoy it, you can do in sub 10 hours. You can make probably sub 5, but it's really, really cool. It's very, very unique. It's clearly very cult for a very good reason. I would strongly advise anyone who hasn't played that to go and play that, because that is almost certainly going to sit as a very cult piece of video game history.
I'm assuming you're playing on Switch.
I'm playing it on Switch under the guise of Cave Story Plus, but I went and checked, and there's nothing radically different from any of the original release there at all. So
Yeah. I have not played through it all the way, but I think it's still somewhere on this computer. I have the original free release that came out years and years and years ago. I just never got around to playing it.
yeah, it's
So
good.
Is it kind of like it looks kind of like Spelunky or something like that, sorta, or is it not a roguelike?
No, it's not roguelike. It's more
Okay.
Metroidvania.
It's
It's a really influential indie game.
Yeah, the story is well worth it, and it's one of those when a story for something that's attached to such a basic graphical game as well is actually very, very compelling and very grabbing. It's really pretty special. Yes, I then moved on into a bit of a favorite from the past, again on the Switch. This is all Switch based. So Katamari, I'm a huge fan of Katamari. So this was Katamari Damacy Reroll. Does anyone not know what Katamari is?
I've heard of it, but
I'm more
played it.
surprised that Derek knew how to spell it to look it up because when
I
you said it,
actually like the game.
I was pretty impressed. I was like, "Oh shit, he found it!" There we
That's,
go.
Some credit, I'm dumb, but not that dumb.
I had never heard of it. In fairness, so
Yeah, just imagine at its lowest common denominator that you are what I can only describe as a very small character. Don't worry who he is or why he is. That starts with like a little tiny ball, and imagine you are barely much bigger than I don't know, like a dime. There we go. Keep it real for the US audience. And you're rolling a little ball around, and everything you kind of roll over, you kind of sticks to your ball, your Katamari. And then as things start sticking, the ball gets bigger, and you keep rolling it and rolling it and rolling it, and things get bigger and bigger and bigger. And I know it sounds like an incredibly ridiculous concept, but eventually the best sort of level towards the end starts with, you start very, very tiny. You end up rolling up the cosmic universe, planets, the solar system and everything.
That's cool. I'd heard of this, but I didn't know what it was really.
Oh,
but,
dude, it's amazing.
But here, okay. Let me interject here real quick.
Yeah.
You know the line of work I'm in, fish tanks, right? So there is a type of sea urchin that is shaped. It's like a ball, and they call it a pincushion urchin. It's got these little tentacles that all come out, and it grabs everything and rolls itself into a ball, just like this. So that's what it came to mind. So anyway, continue on.
There you go. And I would actually argue that, and I'm sure this could be a topic one time as well, but if you're talking about general therapeutic, calming, just want to chill out and do something, it is remarkably calming, just rolling stuff up. Dum-da-dum-da-dum.
And the music that goes along with it just kind of adds to that as well. It's got a really good soundtrack.
Such a good score, and I mean, it is, it's ludicrously Japanese, but I think it's that's all part of it. It's part of the beauty of it. Anyway, moving on, I've got to rattle through these. Rogue Legacy. Anyone else?
Yep.
Rogue Legacy.
Fantastic game. Fantastic.
Just been playing that for the second time, and I forgot how good I think that game is.
It's amazing.
It is absolutely fantastic in its simplicity. For those who
But
haven't played
it's so addicting. You know, it's like,
yeah.
I don't know what it is about Rogue Legacy, but you just want to keep going and going. I'd say about maybe 4 years ago.
Yep.
4 years ago when this came out, I think it was about 4 or 5 years ago. This would have been my game of the year. Like, it's so addicting and so much fun. I don't know what it is, man. It's just, I guess, just trying again and again, and like the different types of guys you can get and the different abilities they have. Some of the abilities are ridiculous, you know.
It is just, I say, beautiful in its simplicity, but the complexity of going through the story and
it's completely random every time. Everything, the levels are randomized. Everything's random, so you never know what you're going to run into. You know.
Yeah, it's super cool. And last but not least, I've been playing Luigi's Mansion, which I'm going to say 70% of the way through.
Okay. How's that? Luigi's Mansion 3, to clarify.
It is Luigi's Mansion 3 on the Switch. I'm a big fan of games that start slow and then capture you. And I thought it was very slow in how it started. And I was starting to think, is this really something I want to play? And that was about, I don't know, a good 45 minutes, an hour's worth. I was like, I'm having to grind through this. I've really enjoyed it since. The concept of moving up the sort of this haunted mansion that you're placed within in order to try and ultimately go and save Princess Peach and Mario and the Toads and all that kind of stuff. Very standard Nintendo affair. But each of the floors within the mansion has its own theme, and I think there's a real lot of effort has been put into that theme and what you're doing within that, and the puzzle solving elements of it are very, very clever. And it really does kind of, keep you wanting to go back. And there's lots of that sort of return and replay ability as well. So yeah, I'm thoroughly enjoying that, more so than when I first started. So
okay,
really good.
Can't go
Yeah,
wrong
I've been
with,
wanting to play that. I'm a big fan of the original, so I need to pick that up.
Can't go wrong with Luigi Ghostbusters, right? Okay, thank you, Justin. You can go back to sleep now. Tony, what have you been playing, man?
Quite a lot of stuff. I actually have not. Last time I was on, I was still playing Final Fantasy 14, I believe. I have not been playing that the last couple of weeks.
Thank God.
I'll go back to it eventually.
Yeah.
No, I've been playing a lot of my game of the year, which I'll cover in that segment. I've played through it 3 times. And I'm on my 4th playthrough of it. I've also been playing Super Mario Galaxy for the first time. I want to say about like 2/3 of the way through it. I'm almost done with Super Mario Galaxy.
How do you feel about it?
It's good.
That's one of my favorite games of all time, so I'm just curious.
It's good. And I'm gonna make you really mad here. I think I liked Odyssey better.
Boo.
But I like Super Mario 3D World better. And I like Super Mario 3D Land better.
You're crazy. That's cool though.
Yeah, I mean, I like the concept. It's just, I don't like using the Wiimote. That's my big problem.
Yeah, I may not either at this point. I haven't played it since 2007, maybe. So who knows? I may feel the same way.
That's always my problem with the Wii. I just don't like the control scheme. I do want to play some more Wii stuff moving forward because I have a bunch of stuff in my backlog that I want to hit soon.
There's definitely a game on the Wii you have to play called Sin and Punishment Star Successor.
Oh, yes.
Oh, Sin and Punishment.
I know all about that game.
Someone's been playing that, but I'll wait.
And on top of that, I just started playing Skyrim again randomly yesterday. I just was like, I'll pop it in. And
game that never goes away.
Son of a bitch. You're part of the problem, Brazzle.
I am.
I'm not. I've never played it. I've never played Skyrim. Thank you very much.
Good for you, aggro. Stay off drugs. That's all that is.
Beyond that, pretty much my game of the year, Mario Galaxy, Mario 1. Played versus Super Mario Brothers, which is the arcade version of it. I'm working on a video for that, but short version is I'm not a huge fan of versus Super Mario Brothers. It's got its issues.
I think there was one of those machines at Free Play last weekend, I believe, actually.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Very good.
Cool.
Very good chance.
All right.
But yeah, and Project Highrise. I just picked that up a couple days ago, and that's
What is that?
It's like an updated version of Sim Tower. If you ever
Okay, I was wondering if it was like like a building sim. Or
yeah,
something.
it's like a tower management sim. So you're like building a tower. You're assigning units to business units. Like you can have a bunch of business people move in to offices in the tower, and then you can do the same with residential units. You can put apartments in, and they all pay you lease money, and then obviously you have to balance that out with the costs of running the tower. So you got all these services that you have to run in the tower, like a copy service, because your offices want to be able to use copying services to copy their papers or whatever. Or like a courier service that you have in there. You can put restaurants in there. It's pretty interesting. I'm enjoying it. I got it for like $3, so I paid a really good amount of money for it on Steam sale day. So
cool.
That's about it. That's pretty much what I have been playing lately.
Okay, cool. Thank you, Tony. Mark,
Yo.
Sin and Punishment, man.
You bet. Okay, so I have a little Christmas load for you all. So first I started off, since last time, beating Resident Evil 4 on the Switch, I think 3 times in a row, because I wanted to unlock the 100%.
Jesus.
So yeah, so I put a ton of time to that. It's one of my favorite games of all time, and I was happy with the port. I think the port's really solid. They're able to get it to run 60 FPS on the Switch, so I played it all in handheld with that Switch pad, or the Hori split pad. I think I talked about that. So that's been seeing a lot of use. And then after we did our Star Fox collab video together, I felt super inspired to play some Star Fox 64 and Star Fox Zero.
Well, you had to play some to get me some footage, which was nice.
Yes.
So I didn't have to do it.
Right. So I did that. And then I was like, well, okay, I want to make my own Star Fox videos. So I made a video about Star Fox Zero. I played that for a long time.
Yeah, I got to watch that still. Yeah.
And then I'm going to release, as soon as I finish it, a 2 all clear of Star Fox 64, where I medal the entire first route and then jump right into expert mode and medal all of expert mode. So I've had some runs that were
glad
close.
I could inspire you, man, to take on 64.
And then I started talking about rail shooters, and all of a sudden everyone's all psyched up about rail shooters. So then people are saying, hey, you need to play some Sin and Punishment. So I've been playing that on the Switch. And then Star Successor, I emulated that bad boy. So I've been playing Star Successor as well.
There's a Sin and Punishment on the 64, right? An older one? Yeah, okay.
Yep, that's
I don't think it wasn't released here, though.
It wasn't, no.
Nope, it's JPN exclusive. So you got to just guess at
it's supposed to be really good, though.
It is really good. Yeah, I've been playing it on my Switch.
What was the I might be confusing this with something else, but I thought it was Sin and Punishment, where it did get a re-release, or maybe it was rumored that it was going to be one of the...
It was re-released on the Wii.
What, the N64 version?
On the Wii Virtual Console is how it came out.
Ah, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So you can get both of them, I guess, on the Wii. Well, you can't anymore. Virtual Console. You have to hack it, but... Yeah, so I've been putting a ton of time into rail shooters. I'm kind of on a rail shooter kick right now.
That game looks great, man. The Wii one, Sin and Punishment. Derek's playing the video. It looks really cool.
It's really, really good. I feel like everyone talks about Ikaruga this, Ikaruga that, Radiant Silvergun this, Radiant Silvergun that, but I think the Sin and Punishment games are Treasure's best games, to be honest. I like.
Oh, that's right. Treasure made those. I forgot that Treasure did those.
No one really talks about them that much. They're my favorites, though.
Okay. Awesome, man. What else, man?
Well, the usual shmup stuff, if you guys want to hear that.
Dude, by all means, it's what you play.
Yeah, so I did a little bit of secret Dodonpachi practice, not on stream, because I'm out in my shed and I got too lazy to plug in my...
What are you practicing for now? You got your 2 all. What do you want now?
The Western AL record.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
That'll be another year's worth of being locked in a closet playing Dodonpachi. But other than that, too, I've been playing some other shmups like Futari, and I was actually in a shmup tournament in November, but I was like low value member of the team because I just kind of put in bare minimum effort because I was warning all my teammates. I was like, listen, I'm burned out. You guys gotta carry. I'm just
dude, I mean, you played
bare minimum.
How long did it take you to get your 2-all on Donpachi? A year? Over a year of practice?
Year and a half, 500 hours.
A year and a fucking half. Here I'm complaining about 5 months of practicing Star Fox, and you did it for a year and a half. God. It's insane.
Yeah, so, and I've been also playing, there's this, I think I talked about before, there's this fighting game called Rivals of Aether. It's kind of like a Smash Bros. Style game, 2D, with like sprites. It's like pretty cool. But my friends are really into it, and one of my friends has gotten absurdly good at it, and I'm the only one who can really compete with him in it. So he like texts me almost every day. He's like, we gotta play, because he wants to be like the best in the state or whatever. So
that's cool.
We're playing a lot of that.
I wanna be the best.
I'm sorry. Yeah. Oh, speaking of which, I did play a little Pokemon Sword and Shield.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Oh, you keep spoilers to yourself because
the hottest topic in town,
Christmas
right?
Day.
I know, man. The lovers and the
Day,
haters.
I get to play that. Yep.
I was thinking of making a video about it, but just making a video about how funny I think it is, how pissed off the Pokemon fandom got, and like I didn't know they had it in them to get so fired up. I was impressed.
Just the culture we live in. I mean,
right now, yeah.
Look at the Sonic redesign. Like, holy shit!
Oh God,
companies these days are like. Yeah, anyway.
So much bitching there that they actually changed it. Yeah, that's crazy.
It proves cyberbullying does work.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Soren, Mr. Christmas over here. What you been playing, man?
So, yeah, just a couple of things. One, I'm going to leave for the minute because it may or may not come up later. But I also played Link's Awakening, and I'm not going to go on about that too much because basically my views are exactly the same as Justin's. I really enjoyed it. Thought it was just a really well put together game. I did have the benefit of that I hadn't played the original, so to me it was all kind of fresh and new. But I really liked it, and yeah, I think anyone that was complaining that it was too short, it's like, come on, it's literally a reskin pretty much of a Game Boy game. So yeah, that's silly, but I thought it was great and well worth it. One of the other games that I played is because I'd just heard so much about it, and it feels like ever since it came out, it's just constantly been talked about on as being like an indie gem and that's Undertale. If you guys are familiar with Undertale. So
yes.
Yeah, like I just heard so much about it, and like the characters from that kept popping up in like social media and memes and things like that, and I was like, you know what, I need to play this thing. And to be honest, it kind of, for me, it's funny because Link's Awakening and Undertale both they're both good for a reason that might not be like what everyone would see as a good thing, but to me it absolutely was, which is that they're both short. Like, I'm literally swimming in a sea of like 50+ hour RPGs, like waiting to be played. It was nice to kind of have, Link's Awakening that was like 10 hours and Undertale that was like 4 or 5. Just to have a couple of games I could play and enjoy and know that I could get them done within a night or two.
That actually makes me want to go back and try to play through Undertale now, because I've started it a couple times and I was like, I don't know that I want to put however many hours into it. I did not realize it was that short.
Game.
Yeah.
What kind of game is it?
Just
so people know, what kind of game is Undertale?
So it's basically like a kind of a little RPG type thing. It's definitely like a homage to your kind of NES RPGs.
Earthbound is the main inspiration.
Yeah, it's very similar to stuff
except
like that.
a lot shorter, I guess.
Yeah, it's really short. It is actually quite linear as well, but that doesn't really matter. Like, it's so well written, and the story is just so good, and all the characters like are just they're so well written, and you kind of get their character and their personality really quickly. Like it deserves all the buzz that it gets, and Sans and Papyrus or whatever, like those two are just two of the greatest characters ever created. Like, they're so good. So yeah, mostly I've just been playing those. The only other thing that I wanted to give a kind of a shout out to was that where I live, we've got one of these kind of new like retro arcade places has opened, and something they've got in there that I've wanted to try for a long time in person is they've got, I think, is it called? We spoke about it before, a Vectrex, like the
Yes.
old like
I played one last
portrait
weekend.
style. Yeah.
Yep.
So it's like so for people that don't know what it is, it's a really old home console computer type thing that basically is like an old CRT monitor on its side, and then it has a little controller and that, and it uses
Vector graphics.
it's the vector graphics, so it's projecting really kind of like strong light on the back of the screen.
Yeah,
and
it glows. It looks Tron. Just call it. It's kind of like the movie Tron. It's kind of what it looks like, almost.
Like the graphics are super simple, but because you're essentially dealing with like monotone. If you don't
wireframe stuff.
But
wireframe.
It's super simplistic, but like even just going and watching videos of it doesn't do it justice. I mean, like Zach, if you said you played one recently, you'll know what I mean. Like when you actually play it in person, it doesn't look like anything else. It looks so stunning.
It's extremely unique. Yeah, extremely unique.
So yeah, really enjoyed that. I basically played. I think it had the built-in game, which was pretty much like an Asteroids kind of knockoff. Yeah, that was really cool. Really enjoyed that, and I'm actually considering trying to source one for myself.
That's cool. How much do they go for these days? I don't even know.
I think like last time I looked on eBay, which was like a couple of weeks back, you could get one for a couple of hundred, like something like that.
It's looking like about 500 from what Derek pulled it up on eBay. It's like $479, $500. Yeah, they're expensive.
Yeah, I'd say $400 to $500. They've gotten expensive the more people have heard about them lately.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure they weren't super popular here.
No, they weren't.
So I would bet where Soren's at, they're probably a little more common, a little bit easier to find.
I wonder how much the games are for it. Probably expensive too, I would imagine.
Oh yeah, yeah. See, that's one of the issues is the games can be really expensive because a lot of I think all of the games basically came with because the screen is essentially just black and white.
Right.
A lot of the games came with like a piece of transparent plastic, an overlay. So you put that on the thing. So
There's Derek just had an auction. There was 5 games, starting bid of $100. So for a 5-game pack, so yeah, definitely not cheap.
But no, it's very cool, and so it's nice. Like the place that just opened near me, it's like the kind of place where you pay like $10 and you can go in and play games all day, and they've just got one there. So if I want to play one. If I want to play one without forking out several £100, then I'll just go there.
Yeah, go down the street. That's cool. Awesome. Yeah. All right, cool, man. Anything else you've been playing?
That's pretty much it. There is one other thing, but it's almost certainly coming up later, so
all right.
I'll wait.
We can save it for that.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll move on to me, and I've been playing a lot, but I'll try not to go too crazy with it. The first thing I did, I've mentioned, I went to Free Play Orlando with our friend of the show, Daria from Daria Plays. We went up there to Orlando and went to the Free Play. Free Play is basically a giant arcade that they set up in a convention center, and I'm not sure who the machines belong to. I'm guessing they probably belong to collectors, and tons of pinball machines, tons of classic games, some newer games. There was some Halo arcade games, stuff like that I saw. But they have a bunch of classic consoles and old computers set up. And I did play a Vectrex. I think I played that same Asteroid game you were talking about, Soren. It was almost, there was like a thing in the center and you had to blast through it to get to there was like this thing in the center you had to get to. I don't know.
Yeah.
The game I had played before that was a Star Trek Vectrex game, which was like almost like a cockpit shooter type game, except all in wireframe, But that was really cool. We had a good time there. Played a lot of games. But as far as what I've been playing myself, Jedi Fallen Order is one. I think who else said they were playing that? Derek of all people.
Derek was playing it.
Yeah, I've been playing Jedi Fallen Order. It's good. It does feel a lot like Dark Souls. Some people say it doesn't, but I've played the hell out of all Dark Souls games, and it feels like a Dark Souls game with laser swords. You know, is what it feels like to me. Just the pacing of it is kind of slow and methodical, and you can't just run up to any enemy and kick their ass. You kind of have to think about it a little bit, otherwise you'll get you'll get beat down. The way when you die, you lose your I think you lose your skill points or whatever, and you have to go back and you have to, I believe, go back to the enemy that killed you, and you have to just hit them once and then you get them back. You know, so that's similar to Dark Souls also, where you have to go and grab your souls when you lose them. It's cool. There's some pretty cool set pieces in it that I've seen. I'm not that far in the game, but the opening like hour of the game is really cool. Like you're in a Star Destroyer graveyard basically, and you're basically a guy who, you know, takes kind of like Ray in the sequels, you know, where he's just kind of tinkers and takes parts out of them and has to tear down these big ships. And it's really cool to kind of run around that. And then you get on this train sequence that's pretty cool, like really cool. You're fighting stormtroopers, everything on this train going super fast. Yeah, I like it. It's cool. Not game of the year material, I don't think, for me or anything, but definitely a cool game, a worthy single-player Star Wars game, finally, from EA. So I'll give them props for that. It's the first EA game I've bought in probably since the Mass Effect games, I think. It's been a long time.
Did they actually develop it, or did they just publish it, right?
They published it, but I think Respawn did it. It was the guys that did Titanfall, I think, the Titanfall games. So it's good. I recommend it. The next game I've been playing is called Aragami, which I've been playing with my buddy. We co-op online, and Aragami is a stealth ninja action game, I guess you could say. Really fun, really cool. Basically, each stage is like, it's almost like a puzzle. Like there's a layout, like say there's a village, like it's all takes place in like, I think, feudal Japan, that kind of time, you know, classic era Japan. And you sneak around these villages, you know, killing guards and stuff and trying to get through. You find items, you hide, you jump down, you gain abilities, you get skill points, and each skill point gives you, you know, some new cool abilities you can use. Like there's one called a shadow monster. I got it last night when I was playing, and you can like sneak up on a guard and unleash the shadow monster on him that eats him. Just, I don't know, cool stuff like that. Yeah, I recommend it. It's cheap. I think it was on sale on Steam for like $3 or something, man. It was like 80% off or something. It was, and me and my buddy picked it up, and it's a lot of fun, man. It's really cool. Cheap game that's worth playing, worth picking up. I'm not sure what we're playing it on PC. I don't know if it's on Switch or on anything else, but is it on Switch, Justin? Do you know?
Sorry. Yeah, it definitely.
It is.
It definitely is.
Okay.
I was actually eyeing it up only recently.
Yeah.
So
you should try it. It's a lot of fun. It'd be fun by yourself, but it's even more fun with two players, because you can kind of coordinate and take out guards together. And yeah,
Sounds
really cool.
Like, did you ever play Splinter Cell Chaos Theory co-op mode?
No, but I did play some Splinter Cell games, and it plays similar to some Splinter Cell games, definitely. Like I played a lot of the original Splinter Cell back in the day, and it does remind me of that. You can't drag bodies around, but you can make them disappear. Like there's weird powers you get. You can set traps for guys, you know, and yeah, really cool.
Did you ever play Tenchu? Because I love stealth games.
No,
Tenchu is actually
Tenchu is awesome.
Yeah, before FromSoft made Dark Souls, their original series, right, was Tenchu.
Okay.
And yeah, it's a ninja stealth game.
Okay.
On the PS1
okay.
too.
I never even heard of that. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Aragami, if you like stealth games, pick it up. You'll love it. Even if you like, it's not super action heavy, but you know, you're killing guards and stuff and some cool abilities. So check that out. Let's see. As for retro stuff,
and Aragami is on every major platform: PC, Xbox One, PS4, and Switch.
Great. That's awesome. I wonder if there's online co-op on Switch. That would be interesting. But like I said, we're playing on PC. But anyway, this has been a great year for the Sega Genesis, for new releases on the Sega Genesis, which is kind of crazy when you think about it. But I've been playing Xeno Crisis, which been in development for about 2 or 3 years now, and it is I would say, Aliens mixed with Super Smash TV. That's the gameplay, basically. So it's room to room. So you get into a room and you have different weapons you pick up and you shoot the aliens as they come in a room. You clear the room, move on to the next room. You find the key cards, unlock the doors. You get to a boss, you beat the boss. You move on to the next area. It's co-ops. You can play 2 players, which is a lot of fun. Playing 2 players in Xeno Crisis is really cool. It's great. It's also available on everything else. I think it was developed for the Genesis, but they released it on the Switch, on PS4, PC, everything. So you can get it pretty much anywhere. Yeah, Xeno Crisis, very cool Genesis game. And lastly, I've been kind of dabbling in Might and Magic World of Xeen, which is actually Might and Magic 4 and 5 combined in the one game. So back in 1994, I think, they released World of Xeen on a CD-ROM, and what they did was they combined the 2 games together so you could warp back and forth between the games and play it all as one game. So I remember playing it as a kid, and I hadn't touched it in decades, but something made me think of it, and I decided to play, and I've been having a pretty good time. It's a what do they call it, a CRPG type game where it's first person perspective, and you're moving around dungeons, and towns and things like that. So it's super complex, a lot going on. I think it holds up pretty well, at least for me. If you're a hardcore RPG fan, you'll probably enjoy it. It's a little dense though and hard to get into without. I have about 10 guides opened up in my browser right now for the game, because I was just trying to figure out how the hell to do stuff. Just super super complicated. So yeah, I think that's about it for me. That's what I've been playing. So
Z,
yes.
Is this what you're talking about?
Oh, it is.
Aragami,
there it is.
yeah.
You have it on Switch.
Yeah.
You have a physical copy too.
I do have a physical.
Was it limited run?
No, I think this is
Okay.
just normal retail release.
Cool.
As far as I can see, it looks like, so this one is I don't know if this is the same as what you got on Steam, but this is the Shadow Edition, which looks like it comes with
DLC.
the DLC.
We have the DLC, yeah.
It doesn't look like, so on the back it just says players 1 in whatever configuration of controllers you have. It doesn't seem to say 1 to 2 online, but then it does talk about online. It says online play requires a paid membership, etc.
Okay, so you can play
does
online.
have online co-op.
All right, it
what,
does.
for this version? For the Switch version?
Yeah, it does. Okay.
Nice.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So now we know. Yeah, you wouldn't be able to play it co-op on the same TV because you split up and thing. Well, I guess you could do a split screen maybe, but okay, cool. That's good to know.
What's split screen? What are you talking about?
I don't know, man. What's split
You
screen?
want to chop my TV in half?
Oh
What's
God,
split
it's
screen?
horrible. It's horrible. It's horrible. Okay.
I miss split screen.
Yeah, I know. Split screen's great. All right, so why don't we take a break, and when we come back, we will talk our best and I guess worst games of the year. Be right back. We're back, and we're here to talk our best and, if we feel like it, our worst games of 2019. So I guess every podcast, every video game show, every YouTuber does this sort of thing. So we figured, what the hell? Let's do it too.
We're going to be like everybody else.
We're going to be like everybody else. We're not going to be
Everyone
different.
else gets to have
fitting
other
in.
fun. Why can't we?
Yeah. So who would like to begin?
You better just choose.
Don't everyone jump in at once.
All right, Nate, you volunteered. Go for it.
Okay, so I was the one that called for worst, so I'll just start with that. I bought Anthem day one, and it was actually like, okay, so let me start out by saying that it was actually, the gameplay is a lot of fun. I have never seen a game handled worse by a company than Anthem.
Now, do you think it's EA's fault or BioWare or both?
I think it's a mixture of both. I think the gray area is probably the place to die on the hill. I think it's, from what I understand, the game went through so many redesigns before actually coming out that the team had ended up rebuilding the entire game at least 2 or 3 times, something like that, starting from scratch. I mean, total redos to the story, to characters, to everything. And I just like, okay, so the game releases, they came together, they actually were able to get out a product. But like I was like we were talking about earlier, which is a nice little thing we were talking about with what you expect from a game. This was definitely a game players expected an end game. They expected to be hard dungeons and raids for you and your buddies to go on so that you could get new and better gear and that you could max out your dude, and that, you know, like there was it was so poorly handled that it's ridiculous.
It looks beautiful. Like the game looks really nice.
And I'm telling you, like the gameplay is fun. I will give it that. It is fun to fly around like Iron Man and land. Like I used
Iron
to play
Man Simulator.
It's been so long now. Like I don't even remember what the classes were called, but I played the like Juggernaut type looking thing, the huge one, and you could literally just pull out your shield and run into people and knock them everywhere. Like go bowling for enemies. It was, I mean, a lot of the aspects were fun, but it was just how the company handled the game that was so atrocious. It was a money grab from the start. You could
live
tell
service, right? That's what they call it now, live service games, right?
And exactly. And I think a lot of companies do that in the sense of trying to just string people along, and they just didn't have the content to back it up, which leads me into my game of the year, which and I kind of only give it to it because I haven't played too many new games this year, I will admit. But for me, it would be Borderlands 3. And the same kind of concept applies to the game in that I love the game. Fun game. I feel like because it's a live service type game, a lot of things like, so the game launched, I got to 50 with my character level cap. You know, I had my gun loadout. I was destroying shit. You know, I was kind of just waiting for the new DLC, and all of a sudden they nerfed the shit out of my character. Like my build, like everything just got nerfed, and it kind of got tossed out the window for me.
How did that happen? An update?
Yeah. Basically, since it's a live service, they can update with patches and stuff like that. So if they see the community doing something that's ultimately not necessarily breaking the game, but it's not doing what they intended, then they can just go in and change it as they please. You know what I mean? Which in theory is good, because if there are bad things, bugs, stuff like that, they can get in, they can patch it for players, but it also gives them the power to totally force players to play how they see the game should be played. You know what I mean? And that's my only problem with it. But as far as an actual quality of game, definitely a Borderlands game. If you liked the previous ones, you're going to love Borderlands 3 if you haven't played it. You can definitely tell, even though they kept the same graphic style, you could tell that it was still updated. Like things had a little bit better smoothness. Things just looked a little nicer. So you could see the updates in changes that they did to the graphics. This isn't just Borderlands 2, DLC. This is a new game. The story doesn't really resonate, I feel like. I feel like the main villains weren't as great as Handsome Jack. I think it's hard to, if you played Borderlands 2, Handsome Jack is probably one of the best villains of all time in games. I would even vote. He's on the list anyway. So it was hard to trump that, but it's my game of the year. I had a lot of fun playing it. Me and my buddies did. Played through it multiple times. It was really solid. It's just like I said, I'm not a Randy Pitchford fan, so it kind of sucks.
He's kind of a dick.
Yeah, he puts his nose in almost everything, man. I also didn't. That was another thing. Their whole right before the game launched, literally, I think it was a couple weeks beforehand, they announced it was only going to be on Epic Games.
That pissed off a lot of people.
Dude, I mean, it's just like, come on, man. Like, you guys are doing this as nothing.
And they don't need the money either, man. It's like some of these small indie studios, I understand why they do it, but he didn't. Yeah, they don't need the money. And as sad as this is, the only reason I haven't got Borderlands 3 yet is because it's on Epic. I'm just gonna wait till it's on Steam next year. I mean,
and a lot of people are, because you shouldn't be forced into something like that because of an exclusivity deal between two companies that has like there's nothing that the consumer gains from that other than the frustration of having to buy it if you want to play it day one, having to buy it on something else. Especially if it's not your platform of choice. Like Steam is my platform of choice.
Yeah, me too.
And yet
there's benefits to it, you know.
Yeah.
I just don't want to have another launcher on my computer that's just taking up space.
Well,
You know?
we all have like 17 launchers
Yeah,
now.
dude.
It's ridiculous.
It's like how many more do we
You know what I
need?
mean?
It's like,
Yeah. So
But hey,
resources.
Nate, although look on the bright side, at least it wasn't a Google Stadia exclusive.
yeah, exactly. That's very
God,
true.
Yeah.
I should have said
do
that
not
just
not
to
give
even-
them ideas.
Let's
just
not
to
even
start some chatter. I should have been like, you know what? The best game, it's not even a game. It's a whole fucking platform. It's Google Stadia. Google Stadia for Game of the Year. That's
I think we already know what Justin's worst of the year is going to be. Maybe we'll talk about Google Stadia.
But yeah, that's so Borderlands 3.
Borderlands 3 best, Anthem worst. That's cool.
Anthem probably
I've
worst.
heard a lot of
Both
shit talking
looter
about Anthem.
shooters.
I like Anthem, but I
Incidentally.
bought it for cheap, so
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah,
it's
like I
cheap
said,
now.
if you got it cheap, and I don't really know how they did afterwards. Like, to be honest, I kind of gave up on it, and I know that they've done a little bit, but the community has all but died on it.
I don't think it's improved that much.
but I never
honestly.
played with anyone anyway. So
I've heard loose rumors that they're actually going to go redo it all again, and it's supposed to be good, and they're going to try to do like the Sonic thing. I keep saying that, but it's like that's what basically
Yeah.
they're going to try to redo everything to make it good again. And it's
the
like,
core of a good game is there. It's just
yeah.
they need to flesh it out better.
Well, like
and
Nate's-
you expect better from BioWare.
And like Nate said, they had to rebuild the game from scratch with, I think it was like less than a year. It was crazy. Yeah, the development process on that was just a shitstorm. But
Indeed.
you know,
So
okay, so cool. Why don't you go next, Tony? Well, I know what your best is, but you can tell us.
Yeah.
What's your best?
Okay, so I played. This is probably the first year that I've played as many new games as I have in a very long time, and it's mostly because of the Switch. Was able to play like I just bought a bunch of games this year, a bunch of brand new games this year. I never do that. I haven't done that in a long time. Just this year, since I had the Switch and I had the extra cash, I ended up getting a bunch of stuff. Super Mario Maker 2 was out. That was really good. New Super Mario Brothers U Deluxe was okay. That came out at the beginning of the year. Me and Zach actually played that when I went down to Florida this year. Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening. But I also played Bloodstained Ritual of the Night. That might have been my number 2. And maybe number 2 tied with Shadowbringers, which was the expansion pack or the new expansion content for Final Fantasy XIV. That has an exceptional story, but nothing has sucked me in quite like Fire Emblem Three Houses. And oh my God.
Yeah, it's a good game.
I have played this game. I'm on my 4th playthrough, and I've played it like back to back to back. Like I have not stopped playing Fire Emblem Three Houses. This is the first. Go ahead.
I have a question because remember when I brought up Fire Emblem, I don't know, some episodes ago. Had you played Fire Emblem before?
I have never played a Fire Emblem.
Right. I think like none of you had at that point.
Yeah.
Nope.
That's the whole
I've played some of them before.
Right, Derek had.
What's so
they've been
great
around
about it,
since-
Tony? What's so great about it?
They've been around since the 80s. Like the Fire Emblem games have been around since the 80s, but it's a tactical RPG. I like tactical RPGs.
No, well, that explains it then.
Tactical RPGs are sick.
Oh, so good.
They're my favorite RPGs for sure.
Yeah, it's like everybody wants to call it anime chess. So it's essentially, you've got a grid-based system. You're moving your characters around based on how much they can move, and then they each do damage. You have your turn, so you move all your characters, and the enemy does all all their movements. Whenever they come together to fight, there's it switches to this big scene where everybody's it looks like there's armies fighting, and your hero against their hero, and they fight each other, and then depending on your stats and everything, that determines the outcome of the winner. Usually it's you, because I only play on easy casual mode because I am a noob, and I don't really care because I like easy games. But the gameplay really helps it for me. I love tactical RPGs as it is, but what put it over the top is the elaborate story. The story is really, really good, And because there are actually 3 different routes, there's actually 4 routes, but there's 3 that are kind of advertised. There are 3 different routes to the game, and it completely changes the entire end game. Like some of the battle maps are the same, but the story is entirely different between all 4 routes. I'm playing through the 4th route now. But then on top of that, there's also relationship stuff in there. So
of course,
you can have your character fall in love with one of your army members, and there's this whole like give gifts to them, and then they like you more. Talk to them. You get to have little tea parties with them, and it's it's really silly, but it works. But then on top of that, not only do you romance like the character that you want to romance, but your characters, depending on how much they fight together, they will develop romances with each other. So it's just an outrageously like addicting and excellent experience. I've had a blast with it.
It almost looks like a Harry Potter game or something. Like I don't know why, but it does.
Okay. That's funny that you mentioned that because
it takes place in a school.
It takes place. The first half of the game takes place in a school where you come in as a professor and you're teaching like young like teenagers, young adults how to become knights, officers. And that's like the whole thing is like you have these 3 houses and it's like the whole Harry Potter house structure.
Mm-hmm.
And they're rivals, but they're all learning together. And then eventually, they kind of grow up. So you've got a time skip later in the game where everybody's grown up. And then that's really cool about it too. So it's a super, super addicting game. I don't think I've talked to a single person who's played it who did not like it. If you like tactical RPGs, it's definitely one to pick up.
Apparently you can go fishing too.
You can go fishing. Even if you're not like super into anime type stories and stuff, you still may want to give it a shot. I'm not a big anime guy. I like a couple animes, but I'm not an anime fan. I wouldn't call myself an anime fan. But I still really liked it. I like the art direction and everything in it. It's a really, really good game.
Cool. Yeah. So it popped your Fire Emblem cherry then.
Yeah, and I will be going back and playing some more of them. But
definitely now he has to have more.
Easily my game of the year. Easily my game of the year.
All right, cool. Do you have a worst game of the year or no?
No, not really. I mean, I listed out all the games that I did play this year. If I had a worst game of the year, I would probably say if it still kind of fits our criteria from what we established earlier, but it would have been New Super Mario Brothers U Deluxe.
Okay.
It just didn't. I mean, it was just.
Yeah, it's okay.
It was a port to. It was a port of a Wii U game to the Switch, and there wasn't enough added to it. I feel like there wasn't a whole lot added to it that made it that much different. That much more special. Okay. It was fun, but
Yeah. Okay.
I paid $60 for that, and
yeah, it's a lot.
Whatever.
All right, Justin, tell us, what is your game of the year?
Well, I'm gonna start this backwards then. So, yeah, so I'm happy to absolutely continue nuking an entire platform and throw Stadia under the bus
here we go.
that it deserves.
I've been waiting for this.
It got off to the absolutely crushing start that I
predicted. The one that we hoped that it would.
Yeah. Just I mean, I know that's not a game. It is a platform.
We'll allow it.
We'll throw everything. I mean, it's one of those. I mean, again, what's fascinating me so much about this at the moment isn't even so much the whole video games thing. It's just the whole concept of just business generally. Like, I don't know many people in this entire gaming community, from casual gamers to hardcore gamers, from people that like games at one end of the spectrum to the next, who don't all feel that nobody really consulted them on whether they wanted it. And the technical aspects, I mean, again, I afford myself to be mildly smug that when it came out on day one, all of the technical aspects that I had said and a number of other people had also said, that's definitely going to be problematic, were entirely problematic. I mean, my favorite video on launch was the I think it was nearly 4 seconds lag with a guy jumping. Have you seen
Jumping,
that?
hitting the jump, and then
Phenomenal. So for those that care, I assume that's not many. In networking terms, 1 second is essentially infinity in networking terms. So 4 seconds is like flying beyond the galaxy. Oh, that's the video. There you go. You've got the very video of the jumping. Fantastic. That will continue to car crash through 2020. So congratulations, Google. Add that to the smoldering pile of shit that you failed with.
And I just want to mention this, that there was many problems, but the one I found the most funny was that their 4K streaming is not actually 4K. It is upscaled 1080p, which just makes it even more delicious, this whole thing,
Yeah.
I almost wonder sometimes with Stadia if there's some other reason beyond, tinfoil hat time, like beyond gaming that they are doing this. I sometimes wonder, because like you said, from a business sense, it makes no fucking sense at all that they're doing this. And I almost wonder if there's some kind of
it's Google, they got infinite money.
If there's some kind of larger infrastructure reason they're doing Stadia, and it has nothing to do with games.
Tax write-off?
I mean, hang on,
right,
wait, Mark.
Something like that.
Wait, Mark. The tactic it definitely is to get one of these things in every fucking household.
No,
right.
That's definitely not the
I
thing
think I know
they're
what you're trying to say. So
they're doing some shit that has nothing to do with gaming, and they're trying to pass it off like it's some kind of gaming thing.
Like they're using gaming to test how this infrastructure is going to work. Bigger,
I feel like they're somehow using it as a reason to lay a shit ton of fiber.
The scapegoat.
Yes.
So this, I'm not going to allow us to go off topic, but only because
when does that happen?
Because I will burn the next 30 minutes telling you a couple of compelling reasons for why I completely agree with your tinfoil hat. And
feel free to go through a few, because I've been waiting for your rant on this, man.
I loved your article you wrote.
Yeah, well, I think one of you just said something about laying fiber. Or using right. Well, I believe one of the reasons could be a push towards edge computing. So it gives them a reason, which may, in certain countries as well, give them a benefit or an ability to roll out edge computing more quickly. So if they have a reason to do it, and they certainly have the budget, it allows them to get out into the exchanges and put infrastructure out there quicker than anyone else is doing it. So I'm looking more at the UK maybe than the US, for example. If they get a monopoly on edge computing position in the exchanges in the United Kingdom, you did tell me you wanted me to talk about this, then they are massively ahead of where all of the other comms and infrastructure companies are. That's one part. The second part is the biggest and most valuable commodity in the tech world at the moment is data. And data, be it poor data, good data, streaming data, everything that people are trying to do isn't just gaming. It's all of your your information about how you are gaming, what you are doing, how you are doing things online. Every single thing is coming back to that system. And in the wonderful world of cloud, Google are the front runners in AI and machine learning. They're not the front runners in other cloud aspects. So we're all giving them a load of data.
Especially data on children, right, YouTube?
So, I agree. There is another reason. I don't think that this is a lost leader that they've just, put under video gaming and gone, we don't care what happens.
But it's a research project you could look at. They're like, hey, we could use gaming and,
I think it's, I think there's a lot of reasons. First of all, everyone's saying, hey, I can't afford this because of the data caps, right? Like, this makes no sense. So I'm sure Google's, with their Google Fiber and stuff, they're like, hey, guess who doesn't have data caps? Guess who doesn't have restrictions? I feel like, I don't know. Again, tinfoil hat.
The problem
I feel like
is
there's
government
way more going
monopolies on internet traffic here in America, but that's
could
be a whole nother podcast episode. Only thing I want to say about Stadia is the gaming streaming on it is the answer to a question no one in their right mind was asking.
Yeah, and that
Not
is,
yet, anyway.
That is true. Well, then maybe they're asking it now. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, we don't have data caps in the UK, so that isn't.
I don't have one on mine.
That isn't a problem.
I don't
either, but I had to pay to remove it. A pretty good amount of money per month just to get rid of it. So they give you, Comcast for the most part gives you a data cap. And then if you want to get rid of it, you got to pay more.
Yeah. So there you go. So now
Right.
I've ripped that everything on Stadia. I just would like to lead into something else that I thought was just poor. More about the way it was done than what it was. And I don't play this game, but I've played all of the standalone games. Was the Fallout First Edition to Fallout 76, which I'm going to assume you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, that was the other big disaster of this year.
I bought it day one.
Yeah,
It's a shit show, obviously.
Yes.
yeah. I mean, that sounded just like me.
It did, actually.
Except it didn't. It's another one of those.
I tell you what it sounded like. It sounded like Dick Van Dyke from Mary Poppins.
I wondered why he was on the podcast. What was he doing there? So it's another classic PR disaster. Well, you could argue it wasn't a disaster. It was the nature of. It's not even what it was. I'm not gonna get on some bandwagon about gamers are trying to be milked for money and this, that, and the other. At the end of the day, you have a choice to purchase it. You have it is what it is. What it isn't is very well done, which I think is unforgivable. And if you're going to get money off of people, the least you could do is actually put out a product that meets what you've said it is. From a marketing point of view, again, you may argue that this is good as much as bad, but I assume you're all familiar with the guy from England who bought falloutfirst.com as a domain.
Yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, he must have just gone to GoDaddy and gone, I'll just have a look. Oh, it's available. Who'd have thought? and then basically just put up a holding page that said, this is shit. Well.
He bent him over the table with that one.
He did. That was great.
Wonderful, which is hilarious. So yeah, I'm gonna park all that under bad. Okay, so game of the year. I did I struggle with this? I struggled a little bit because I have become pretty much a Switch only player, which has led me to play a lot of first party Nintendo stuff over other stuff. I'm trying to make sure I kind of mix it up, but a lot of the games I'm playing aren't actually released this year. I've noticed that probably more than any other year, I'm the opposite of what Tony said earlier, which is I've actually been playing stuff that isn't released this year. But I'm going to have to go for all the reasons that most of you know. I'm going to go ahead and pick Toejam and Earl. So
cool. Back in the groove.
So I'm selecting Toejam and Earl, Back in the Groove, and I know that anyone of the same people we were talking about earlier who say games like Link's Awakening are absolutely terrible and blah 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 would think that I'm off my rocker. Let's take this from a very personal point of view to start with. From a very personal point of view, we're talking about a game originally in 1991 did more than just fulfill a video game hole for what would have been myself and Soren. It was just a game. It was a game that was very, very important to us at the time. It was very unique that it allowed us to play together. It was something that resonated with me and my friends at school. The timing of that was absolutely fantastic. And, so that has always held a very special place in my heart. And to feel that there was going to be the kind of spiritual successor to the original that never came for the many reasons that are reasonably well written about, and to see that come some 28 years later, it is absolutely fantastic. Then when you add in the fact that I was lucky enough to be a significant part of the Kickstarter campaign in 2015, and that it took nearly 4 years and had its own dramas across that.
You were the top donor, am I correct?
I was.
Okay.
I don't like to wave that flag, but yes.
Sorry, Greg announced it. So whatever.
All the money.
yeah. Greg's not usually very subtle about that, but yes, it's that is true, and it to be part of that and to be part of then, what was to start with meeting Greg and the team that were responsible for the game, for those guys to become people that I would consider friends, to ultimately be sitting here as well because of that is almost
we're all sitting here because of it.
It's a kind of a wonderful, it's not an irony, but a wonderful part of how important the game was originally for me as a kid, and the kind of bringing together of my friends and me and Soren playing games. It's kind of continued that with the spiritual successor. And look, from a game perspective, it is kind of everything I would have hoped for from a spiritual successor of the original game. Is it going to win genuine Game of the Year awards and pick up Golden Globes or BAFTAs or whatever the bloody hell these things are? No, it's not, and it never was going to. But is it a fun game that absolutely nails what it set out to do? Yes. Is it something that I go back to time and time again? Actually, yes. Is it something that I've also then been able to play with my son, who is exactly the same age as I was when the original came out? Yes, that's pretty cool as well. So, yeah, totally understand that there's a heavy nostalgic value behind it as well. But
this choice was so obvious that it slipped my mind for you. Like, it just makes total sense. And I didn't even cross my mind. It's crazy. Yeah, absolutely, man. We still need to play, by the way.
We absolutely do. We absolutely do. But yeah, so there you go. There is my my choice of Game of the Year for all the reasons you'd expect.
It may not win Game of the Year, but I just wanted to give credit where it's a Kickstarter game that didn't go over budget, completely delivered what it promised on, and is actually fun to play, and isn't ripping fans off to this day. Looking right the fuck at you, Star Citizen.
Yeah, the
$250 million they reached.
Is that what it's at now? All right, so we're approaching Avengers Endgame numbers here for budget. It's like for a video game, insane.
Yeah, but Avengers Endgame actually came out.
How many years ago?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Anyway, Mark, why don't you go ahead then and tell us your best and worst of the year, or just best if you want, or just worst if you want, whatever you want to do.
Okay, you guys are going to have to suffer through a little bit here because I was trapped in a closet playing Dodonpachi for a year and a half straight. And I got out of prison 3 months ago. And so I've been trying to oh shit, what came out in 2019?
This is why me and Mark get along, because we both are trapped in prison with our games sometimes.
Yeah.
It was Star Fox this year.
Right. So I'm going to list off games, first of all, that I really want to say are games of the year, but I actually have not been able to play them, but they're on my radar. So the first one that I would consider probably would be my game of the year is Devil May Cry 5. I'm a huge Devil May Cry fan. 5 is supposed to be, from all the hardcore fans, from everyone, it's supposed to be what everyone was looking for, what everyone wants. So that's probably would be my game of the year, but I haven't played it yet. And so following that up to is Resident Evil 2 Remake. Again, that would be right up my alley. I love Resident Evil. It's one of my favorite franchises. And I'm glad it's kind of more like Resident Evil 4 with the way it plays and stuff like that. But again, couldn't play it. I was playing too much Dodonpachi. And then there's a third. So the new FromSoft game, Sekiro or whatever it's called. What's the new FromSoft game?
Sekiro Shadows Die Twice.
Yeah, Sekiro Shadows Die Twice.
I should know this.
See, that was another one where I was like, oh shit, I want to play this so
I didn't even know about this, and I love From Software, so yeah,
right.
Really
I need to know about this.
Yeah, and it looks like, because my complaint with Dark Souls, I know this will piss off most Dark Souls fans, but
yes,
I like action combat games more than the slow-paced Dark Souls. And so whenever I play Dark Souls, I just get a little bit bored with the combat. And with this one, they kind of ramped up the combat and the difficulty, made it harder,
Dude, this looks great.
I
don't need another game to play.
Right. So those 3 games would be Mark's games of the years if I could actually play them, but I haven't had the chance yet. So, and then there's one also I have to shout out that I can't play yet because it comes out in 2 weeks, which is the Esperade port from M2, Esperanza, unreleased arcade shmup. That game I know is good because, you know, I emulate it and stuff, but the first official release ever is 2 weeks from now.
Oh,
So
that's
I
awesome.
have to shout that out to people.
On what's it coming out on? Just everything?
PS4 and Switch.
Okay.
So if you have any interest in shmups at all, check it out. It's one of the coolest ones around. The art style is kind of inspired by, it was made in the 90s, kind of inspired by Akira and like Ghost in the Shell, that kind of like, you know,
Okay.
hardcore anime type style. One of my favorite shmups. So those are the games that I've been really wanting to play and would be my games of the year.
Okay, cool. Any worst games? Any games that you just were like, oh God?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I decided, okay, since we're going to do worst games of the year, let's make this spicy, okay? I didn't want to just choose.
Mark, spicy? No.
No, right? I didn't want to just choose the safe picks that everyone dog piles on. I wanted to choose some stuff that will start some sparks because, yeah. So I'm going to come out and say it. I don't think people have come to this conclusion yet, but I think they're going to. I think Shenmue 3 is going to be seen in a few years from now as a massive disappointment.
I've actually seen articles saying that one of Shenmue 3's biggest downfalls is that it just didn't keep up with the times. That a lot of things that and I've never played the Shenmue game, so I have. Well, I'm just saying I'm not 100% sure what they're talking about. So, but you know, they basically what the articles were getting at was that a lot of the systems were outdated. Basically, they just chose to kind of keep that retro feel, and it just didn't resonate with a lot of people already. So
It
I don't
sounds
think
like
you're far
Shenmue
off,
3
is
is a
what I'm
game that
saying.
came out years too late. It should have came out right after
2000, 2004 or something, 2003.
Mm.
Yeah.
And I feel like I think what's going on right now, okay, this may, you know, I'm going to piss some people off, but I think right now it's kind of a little bit of like Force Awakens, Phantom Menace type situation going on where the fans don't quite want to admit it yet that they don't like the game because they've waited so long for it. But I feel like it's just kind of missing out on what would have made it a cool game. So
Force Awakens is a perfect example, I think, of when you show up, you see it, and you're like, wow. But then you think about it a little bit, and you're like, was that really that great? That was kind of hollow, kind of, you know, it kind of reminded me of the first, you know, yeah.
Well, I think that's what's going to happen with Shenmue 3 because it's missing all the Sega stuff because they couldn't really get that in there. And then the combat is really not as good as the original games. I think it just couldn't live up to what it needed to live up to. So it's not like it's a bad game, but I think it's going to be seen as a huge disappointment, especially after all the Kickstarter shenanigans, all the years, and, you know, all the expectations. I think it's going to be seen.
That influx of epic money they got.
Yeah, and also I don't think it even concludes the story. I think the story still isn't concluded. So it didn't even do that. So I feel like it's going to be seen in a while from now as like a big disappointment, but people aren't quite there yet.
The sales have been shit too, from what I understand, like really bad.
Yeah, so I think that would be one of my choice of worst games of the year, you know, relatively to expectations. And then I have another choice that's a best and worst all at once, which is Pokemon Sword and Shield. Because I think
tread lightly, sir. Tread lightly. That's
I mean, Mark.
I told you. I'm going to fire some people up.
Don't you fucking
you're
ruin
burning
this
up the
for
fan
me.
bases.
Mark is sitting there with a fork like, hey, what the heck do I stick this in an outlet?
And here's why I'm saying that. Because I think it's the best. Because it's gotten people talking about Pokemon about some shit that no one wanted to talk about for years. Like the fact that they still release 2 games, that they can't just combine it into one. I don't know. It just got the Pokemon fan base really fired up. So,
well, one thing I will say about this particular game is that the reason I'm so hyped for it, I'm going to get to play it Christmas Day, but the reason I'm so hyped for it is it's the game that it's the Pokemon game I've been wanting since like N64, since we've had 3D games. Like it's an open world. There's Pokemon out there that you actually have to go hunt down and catch. There's Pokemon that there's only certain circumstances that they'll be out. Like it has to be nighttime, it has to be cold, it has to be raining, or whatever the case. Like this is a game that a lot of Pokemon fans have been waiting for a long time. And even though there was a lot of shit talk, like I haven't heard anything actually bad about the games themselves. Like,
Man, I have my Twitter feed is 99% shmup content. Like half of it is in Japanese. And this was so wild that Pokemon shit started showing up in my Twitter, like direct. I was like, whoa, like the online battling about this game has been outrageous.
It's been Facebook groups, man. It was just because the Facebook groups are all algorithmic now, and they just random posts show up on your timeline. Dude, you're right, man. It was just Pokemon when that.
But
still,
I had people like vaguely had ever seen in my Twitter straight up fighting each other, like telling each other to fuck off and stuff. I'm like, whoa. So like I think it's the best in some ways if you want some entertainment and want to see the Pokemon fandom get wild. But if you're a true deep Pokemon fan, this might be the worst because it's like been such a contentious issue where the Pokemon fandom's like ripping each other apart. So
I don't know. Like, I would argue also that I'm a pretty avid Pokemon fan. I'm not like the Pokemon fan. I don't own every game or anything like that, but I've played quite a few in the series, and I'm super fucking hyped for it. I have not let any of this Pokemon's not in it. I haven't let any of that fucking affect me. Like, to me, I am still psyched. I'm looking forward to play it. They have this new thing where 4 people can get together and fight these mega Pokemon, which is kind of a cool concept to try and bring a community together with, co-op stuff. But I'm still super hyped for it. So I would just say that, I don't think necessarily it would destroy anything or, it would cause so many rifts that Pokemon can't come back. I do agree with you, though, that I don't think there needs to be 2 versions. I think that's kind of a money grab, to be honest with you. Like, really, they just put a couple exclusive Pokemon in each one, and that's it. But otherwise, they're the same game. But anyway.
But see, like the thing that I think is kind of stupid though about the Pokemon, just the whole franchise and the games they make. Like, absolutely, like I'm not somebody that
I am a Pokemon fan, by the way, just in case that's not clear.
Soren's like, I'm just going to shit on a game that you guys love a lot. But, I do it with a British accent so it doesn't sound as bad.
Exactly. It doesn't sound like I'm shitting all over it. No, like, I'm not somebody that particularly cares about graphics. One of the games I recently played was Undertale. So, that tells you, like, I couldn't care less about the graphics if the game is good. But I have seen people complain about the graphics and the animation and stuff in Sword and Shield. And
that's
legit.
And I'm like,
yeah, and it's like, I totally agree that you're like, Nate, you will, as a fan, you will get the game and you'll play it and you will enjoy it, and that's absolutely fine. But I think when you've got a company like, is it just
Game Freak?
Pokemon? No.
Game Freak, right?
No, like the people who own the whole thing, are they just called the Pokemon Company? Yeah. So when you've got a company like that is legitimately one of the biggest franchises in the world by like a massive amount, like second place isn't even close. Like they are the most profitable franchise and IP in the world,
by far.
And they still have like there's animations of Pokemon's doing attacks where literally the Pokemon doesn't fucking move. It's not animated. It just like it's like they took the little T model and just.
I think that was one of the leaks, wasn't it? That was like somebody.
No. That is in the game.
It, so it, like,
yeah, I've played it. The animations. Okay, so I feel like in regards to the graphics and stuff, it's like not as bad as some people on the internet want you to say. Like Game Freak lost all interest and didn't bother. Like, it's not that bad, but it's just kind of really, really bland. It's really like, sometimes I almost feel it's a little bit like a mobile game. Like, it's kind of cheap looking at times.
But and that's what I'm saying is like any other company, like I wouldn't necessarily judge them, by that. Like I'd kind of give them a little bit of leeway. But when you are the biggest IP in the world, Like, why isn't your Pokemon game looking like Detective Pikachu?
Well,
You know what I mean? Like,
in fairness, though, this is also the sheer size of this one compared to the other ones is a lot different, right? Like, just making it open world and making it so that because I've heard that the size of the game rivals that of like Breath of the Wild, right? Like, it's pretty huge, the places you can go and stuff. I would just think the way the other games were made, being top down, it was probably a lot easier graphically on them. And I'm not going to give them an out. I totally agree with you. I think they have the funds to be able to make it better if they wanted to. I guess I would give them a little leeway in that this is a way bigger undertaking than most of their other games.
And it had to go on the Nintendo Switch, not a PS4.
They are limited by that, but I mean, they still could have. I mean, like, I get the argument that they could have made it better for sure, but
the art design itself could be better. Graphic powerhouse or not, like the art design is really.
There's plenty of good-looking
really
Switch
generic.
games.
well, like you just mentioned, Breath of the Wild. Breath of the Wild
Runs
is
on the Switch.
Looks fantastic.
It runs on the Switch.
for
It's
sure.
an absolutely massive game, and it looks beautiful. It looks stunning, and you know, Pokemon Company definitely have the resources. Like,
what I think happened, I personally think this was a game designed for Game Boy, and I think it was at the last minute they were like, no, like, this needs to be on the Switch. Like, we could get more sales on the Switch. Switch is hot right now. Let's
a good
get
point.
it out there. And I think
might be
that's
right.
probably what happened.
I think that's
probably
right too. I think it was in 3DS.
A 3DS game that they
game at heart.
and when the 3DS started, you know, all the focus went to the Switch. Yeah, when the 3DS was basically put out the pasture. So,
and I would assume it probably wasn't too much of an upgrade to switch over, like the, from 3DS programming, I guess, to the Switch. I would assume that it's probably
to switch over.
I think
to the
I think a really good point of comparison actually is Fire Emblem Three Houses and Pokemon, because both of them are 3DS handheld exclusive titles that are RPGs made by third-party companies. And when you compare the graphics between the two, the Fire Emblem just destroys Pokemon. It looks so much better.
Yeah,
And their
again,
team
I'm
is
not
less
gonna
profitable and smaller. So
I'm not gonna die on a hill saying that they did everything right. I'm just gonna say that, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt that it was, there was just complications. Maybe they were so far along with the 3D design or the 3DS design that it would have been more costly to just redo the whole game. The one thing I'm hopeful for, though, is that this game does well enough that they're not deterred, and that the next game will be that nice glossy one that we're wanting of same type of atmosphere, but just glossy and looking nice. You know what I mean?
Mark made a good point that the one real good thing about Sword and Shield, and I have not played it, I probably will eventually, but it's got people talking about what parts of the Pokemon formula that they've kept in every series can be trimmed off to make it better.
yeah,
And what's
I feel
really
like
kind of
I feel like it
redundant.
is. Yeah, exactly. I feel like it kind of actually is a good thing that they're just like, okay, we can't do this national Pokédex every single game forever. Like, there's going to come a point we got to cut you off. So this is kind of like the slap in the mouth a little bit. Be like, psh, okay, you're cut off. So that next game, you won't be so, upset about it. But really, they can't keep that up forever.
I've also heard on this one, though, that they sped up a lot of the things, and I know we need to get off Pokemon, but
yes.
I've heard that they've sped up a lot of things. In fairness to it, not all is shit. Like in the other games, you had to go through this bullshit, intro, and now you can kind of just get right to it if you want to. That type of stuff. Skip all the tutorials and all that.
So we're gonna move on from Pokemon. Yes, Pokemon Sword and Shield, very controversial this year. Go ahead, Soren.
Okay. I'll try and keep mine relatively snappy because we spent about half an hour talking about Pokemon. So.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. It's fine. So
one more thing about Pokemon. No, I'm just.
So my worst game of the year. I'm going to start with the worst game of the year, and actually, kind of similar to what Mark said. This could be a contender for worst or best, but not for the reasons that I think the developers would have hoped for. So, worst game of the year has to be, hands down, the new WWE game. The 2K20 game.
Right.
I saw the
Like,
gifs of it,
yeah,
man. That is
man.
hilarious.
It's so
The
bad.
characters look like Chernobyl survivors.
Oh,
It's-
There's
I
people
wanted
like
to-
glitching in and out of the ropes and shit. It's like hilarious.
Like,
Oh, you should
there's-
show a clip. I haven't seen this.
yeah,
Oh,
there's so
dude,
much-
it's so bad.
Mate.
It's so bad. Like,
But
it's
this
a
is the
joke.
thing, right?
It's an
This is the thing,
embarrassment.
is it's kind of best game of the year because of how fucking funny it is. Like, just see, like there's a clip going around of like 2 of the female wrestlers, and they're doing a submission move, and the ref has just glitched too. He's just glitched too close, and like
right now,
it just looks like the ref's getting noshed off. Like it's.
Yeah.
It's just ridiculous. Or like somebody like trying to do a move and then their character just like spinning around the ring really quickly. Or like there was a cutscene where one of the wrestlers was meant to jump on the other one through a table, and in the cutscene they fucked off of the turnbuckle and just fell to the bottom, and then the table smashed because the animation carried on going because it was a cutscene. Like, it's such a mess.
This looks like a fucking PS2 game.
Oh, it's
like,
horrible.
Look at
Yeah.
It's
and for the people
absolutely horrible.
watching the video version, I'm going to include some of this in the video so you'll be able to see it because this is too funny, man.
It's so bad but so good at the same time. Like, I feel for the people that have, that went and bought
that's
it.
really
and,
who got hurt here was the wrestling fans, like the people
Yeah.
who put money. And there are some
That's what they get for like a pro
die-hard wrestling
wrestling.
fans out there. Well, no,
Yeah.
in fairness, everybody has their nerd vice, and to some guys is just wrestling. They like the storyline.
This just must have been rushed. It had to be a rush job.
Well,
This is
so-
the
It
reason.
so
was.
this is-
I mean,
yeah.
you could tell it was just so horrible. Anyway, go
So
ahead.
this is the thing. Like, so what's kind of funny is if you follow it on Twitter as well. So I follow WWE Games, and every time they post so recently there was like a Black Friday sale, get WWE 2K20 50% off, and it was just hundreds of comments just saying fix your fucking game. Like, just every time they advertise a new bit of DLC or something.
Dude, this
people are
guy's
like,
doing like a Han Solo trapped in carbonite thing here, man. It's hilarious.
And it looks like he's got freaking cerebral palsy or something.
It's so bad.
So, yeah.
But like, the problem is to give them a little bit of credit or whatever. It isn't entirely their fault. Like, I forget the name. I think it's Vicarious Visions, something like that. The in-house team that basically took it over. They did actually completely take the franchise over from, I think it's Youve, who had been doing it for years, and they've now gone, like, because they're a Japanese company.
So this
and
is
they're-
their
Visual
first year?
concepts.
So that's it. Visual Concepts, yeah. So this is the first year that they have completely taken
Oh, God,
full,
no wonder.
full helm of it and tried to do it, and they had to remake a load of the stuff like almost from the ground up. But the point is like
this?
they. I mean, it's horrible, and the thing
What
is,
are we watching? What the hell?
like, I
is
don't
that?
know.
I mean,
I don't know why
That's what
they.
epilepsy
is
looks
happening
like.
right now.
Trust me.
What is this? Is like this is worse
This
than
is
The
what I do when
Conjuring
you
or
put
some
flashing
shit.
lights in
Like,
front of my
It's
face.
a horror movie.
yeah, dude, that's what's happening. It's a fucking. Oh god, dude.
But that's
All
the
right,
thing.
all
Like,
right.
I don't understand why. Other than the fact that they seem, maybe it's a contractual thing and they have to put a game out every year and they're on that deadline.
Yeah,
Yes.
But like,
it
that
has
was
its wiki on
probably
it.
it. That was
they
probably it.
shouldn't have done it. And I feel like, to be honest, even before this, I mean, this is an absolute fucking car crash. But like, even before this, we've had years and years of the game just still filled with bugs and just stuff that doesn't work right, or things that they keep removing features and then bring them back later, and it's just an absolute shit show. And I feel like if they need to stick to that yearly format, which, to be fair, for wrestling, because it changes so much, they kind of do need to, to keep to a yearly format, because they struggle to keep up with it anyway.
Yeah.
But they should go, if anything, they should go the same route as Activision with the Call of Duty series, where they have multiple teams working on a game, but it means they get to release a game yearly, but each team gets to spend 2 to 3 years working on their one. So, like, if you absolutely need to release a wrestling game every year, like it's a sports game, that's fine. But give your development teams time to actually make the game smooth and good and rounded off and just like a finished product. This thing is horrendous.
Dude, when this podcast is over, I'm gonna go eat my dessert and watch.
He's just gonna
videos
watch
of
an
this,
hour
man.
of this shit.
It is, dude. It is so bad. All right, we got to move on. Soren, what's your best game of the year?
Okay, so yes, to move on, game of the year. So I had a couple of choices for this. One which I actually want as my game of the year, and I figured we kind of talked a little bit about this on Twitter, and I had a backup in case this got disqualified. But my game of the year is Baldur's Gate Enhanced Edition. Specifically, I'm playing it on the Switch, and I mean, it is just awesome.
Game released 20 years ago. It's cool. Whatever.
Yeah, it's fine.
I know, though.
It's
I know.
fine.
We qualified it because it was released on Switch this year. So right.
Yeah, so I think they did the enhanced edition maybe like a year or two ago on PC, and then they've ported it to all the consoles this year, and that they did actually make some changes for that. So they have tweaked the controls and that. So if you want, you can kind of use your analog sticks and move the characters around, and like the thought that has gone into transferring what would traditionally be all handled with mouse and keyboard over to just a controller. Like it's one of the best that I've seen. Like they make it so intuitive and just really nice to do. But it's just all these little tweaks. I mean, I am looking at the game through some like nostalgia goggles and that, because I played it when it first came out and loved it. But
so you can zoom in and out, which I know you couldn't do originally.
Exactly. Yeah, you can zoom. They added difficulty settings. They added.
Nice.
There's like extra content they added. I think I'm
going to be playing it this or next year. I'm going to play it in preparation for Baldur's Gate 3. Like I'm going to play 1 and 2.
Yeah, it's just so good. Like they did such a good job of just making it, an actual proper enhanced remake kind of thing. Like a it's a remake, or like an HD, redo. So absolutely love that, and that is hands down my game of the year. We'll give a shout out to the other option I had, which is now just a runner up, which is Bloodstained. Ritual of the Night.
Yeah. Oh, so good.
Yeah, that is just such a good game, and I actually
you talked about it at least on 3 or 4 episodes in a row. You were talking about Bloodstained,
yeah.
So yeah.
Because I was playing it so much. Like I bought the Switch version, which apparently was meant to be the worst version, like graphically and with the it had lower frames per second and all of that. I didn't care at all. Like I still absolutely loved it. Played the hell out of it. I mean, like you said, I talked about it on like 2 or 3 podcasts because it was what I was playing all the time. So yeah, that definitely gets a shout out as well.
Yeah, that would have been my number 2 as well. It was so good. They did patch it for the Switch, however. So
yeah,
so it's a little better now.
It's apparently it's in a lot better shape now.
Good. Okay, cool. So that leaves me and Derek. I'll go first real quick. I don't have much to say other than I'm using Soren's rule, which is Cuphead was released on the Switch this year, and it was my first experience with it, and I love it. And I've also probably talked about it on 3 or 4 episodes in a row, talking about Cuphead. I've played it cooperatively with quite a few people now, and it's I don't. What else can I say about it? It's a run and gun shmup hybrid with 1930s style animation. Just amazing. It's great. It's hard as balls. I still haven't beaten it. Tony, you've beaten it, haven't you? Yeah, man.
Yeah, I did.
I don't even know, dude. It's so hard.
You haven't beaten it yet?
I haven't beaten it. No, I haven't. I will.
How far have you gotten? We're
like 75% through, I think.
I guess you have not gotten. Okay, are you having problems, or have you fought the giant robot in the airplane?
No, I haven't even got to that part yet.
That is
that's worse, huh? Great.
That is what made me decide I did not like the game. That boss. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of bosses like that, I think. But yeah, that must be the worst of the worst. But anyway, I love the game. It's great. I don't need to say much more about it. What else? So I have a worse. Not really. I can't really think of, other than the games people have mentioned. I didn't play Anthem, but I followed it very closely and heard about people's frustrations with that. Same with Fallout 76, which was a shit show. So I don't need to say anything else. So Derek, why don't you finish us off, man? What was your best and worst of the year?
Anyone who knows me well enough knows that I am a huge fan of the modern day Fallout games, especially New Vegas, and Outer Worlds scratch that itch like nobody's fucking business. It's the perfect blend of New Vegas and Firefly, and I loved Firefly better than Star Trek. We'll say it now.
Okay.
And we've never got a Firefly
is
game.
great.
Hold on. I mean, it's good, but better than Star Trek?
Oh, yeah.
Bro, no. We're going to have a little talk.
Keep it to games, guys. Keep it to games.
Just saying.
But it just, like, everything you do in the game seems like it has weight in the later story. And part of the reason why I'm doing another playthrough now is I want to see how a different choice will affect things later on. It is that good. There's no bugs, so you know Bethesda had nothing to do with it. The only things I can really say bad about it is I played original on Xbox One, and because for some reason it didn't show up on PC Game Pass the first day for me, which may just be a server glitch, I don't know. The text was way too small on Xbox One. Even on a 55-inch TV, it looked terrible. But they fixed that now, but that's literally the only bad thing I can say besides it ended too soon. I know there's going to be DLC. I'm waiting for that, but it's that freaking good that it's near perfect. And
that's awesome. I can't wait. Yeah, I can't wait to play it. I've got it sitting in the box still. I got to open it and play it. But I'll probably just wait for the DLC. I played a lot of new
games this year. There's a lot, like looking at the releases from 2019, there's a lot of really good stuff this year. Luigi's Mansion 3 was great. Super Mario Maker 2 was fantastic.
Yeah, nobody mentioned
I even
that,
like Bloodstained, and I don't care for Metroidvania as much anymore just because I'm so burnt out of every fucking game being a Metroidvania.
Yeah.
But Outer Worlds, without question. As for worst game of the year, I mean, Death Stranding was released, and I would have delivered a pizza delivery guy once. I don't want to play a game like it.
Except with like 20 pizzas stacked on your back, 30 pizzas.
I remember
You fight ghosts.
I am
with an abortion in a jar and grenades from your own piss. I'm not making this up.
I am going to play Death Stranding because I
might too.
I have watched somebody who has enthusiastically streamed it. The story still looks like I won't enjoy it, but honestly, there's stuff about the gameplay that I'm kind of interested in, and that's like there's also like street building, and then you got to put up buildings and stuff like that. You can do a little bit of a world building like with your character, and that kind of interests me a little bit.
My brother Trevor, shout out to Trevor right there, has been playing, and every time I go in the living room and watch, he absolutely adores the game, which good for him. But every time I watch it more, it's like, A, this looks boring as hell, even though it's a absolutely gorgeous game. But 2, Hideo Kojima needs an actual adult to cover his story because he's insane. And an artist like him always needs someone who's rational to kind of rein in their worst excesses. We've seen that before with some other, different media before. Auteur finally gets his own stuff and then just goes ape shit. And that's what happened here. But I think it's going to be a game that a lot of people discuss, for good and for bad, for a long time to come. But Kojima's a hack.
Thank you, Derek. We can just end the podcast on that note.
Kojima's
a
Mark
hack.
Was getting spicy.
I don't think.
I actually was saying before Death Stranding came out, because I'm a huge Hideo Kojima fan, but I was just watching everything, and I was like, especially because I played Metal Gear Solid 5, and I feel like Metal Gear Solid 5 was kind of showing what direction Kojima was going to go with his stories and stuff, and I was like, this game's going to be really bizarre, and like it's going to be really out there, and people are going to think it's going to be like this really fun game, but I said it's going to be more of like a discussion type game, and I feel like I was kind of right.
It's a walking simulator with higher aspirations.
It's just nothing wrong with walking
simulator.
There was a GIF here recently of like it was like a FedEx guy around the holidays, and I guess it was a thing of the guy like without his exosuit, so he was carrying the huge stack, but he's just like and he's just anyway. Great.
I'm gonna say it again because I want it to like just for posterity just how stupid the idea is. It's a walking simulator where you're carrying an abortion in a mason jar. and you fight ghosts with your own poop.
I mean, it sounds legit.
It's art, man. It's art.
What else do you fight ghosts with?
Or like
I mean,
fart.
vacuums. Like, come on.
I almost feel like
jeez.
Kojima should just like if he wants to go this far, just kind of like maybe look into doing films instead of.
He's talked about with this
Yeah,
studio now.
He's
doing
already
so
talking about it.
films.
It's
Like
already.
I'd
it's
watch
already been
this
He needs
shit
to.
all day.
It's like David Cage. They don't need to make games because they obviously don't want to make
More like
games.
David Lynch. I would say Lynch is more like Kojima. Weird shit.
Overrated and crazy?
That too, I guess, maybe. So anyway, all right.
Lynch does some good stuff.
We need to wrap this up, guys. We're way past the point of
the
no
end
Happy
of the
return.
holidays,
year.
motherfuckers.
It's the
It's-
end of the year, though.
It's the end. It's the end of the year, and
Let's
I've
talk
seen
about Pokemon for another 30
Oh,
minutes.
God, let's
Come on,
not.
guys. Come on.
all I've seen is
Do a whole
just
episode about Pokemon.
all I've seen is Justin's bug eyes staring at his screen like this, staring.
I promise. I'm looking at the videos of the things on the right of my screen. I mean, I'm still laughing about the WWE.
Oh, dude! Like I
Yeah.
said, that's where I'm going after this is over. All right. We are the Game Fellas. We have Derek, Nate, Tony, Soren, Justin, and Mark. We were all together.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. We will see
Yeah.
you in
Happy
2020.
holidays.
Happy
Adios.
holidays. Christmas sucks.
Later.
2020. Here we come. Later.
Want
It'll be
to
So,
talk about-
Justin, are you getting your copy of Street Fighter yet?
Well, I am absolutely all over it.
Oh,
I
is
know
that
there
what's
was-
playing right now?
Yeah, it totally is. There was a copy of it that you showed me on eBay, and because I've probably got more money than sense, I was half tempted to buy it.
Yeah, it was like a mortgage payment.
Do you see what Zach did there? Zach, have you ever been a teacher?
No, thank God.
No, because what you did was you basically aimed your comment at Mark, but in
Yeah.
a way you aimed it at all of us so as to soften the blow. So really,
Well,
what he was
Tony-
saying, Mark, was "fuck you."
You
just
fucked
for
it up,
everyone.
Mark.
You fucked it for everyone, but
Tony-
I'm gonna soften the blow.
Okay.
So yeah, I just needed to quickly show you this. So you guys were talking about cool cases. So I got this to store my 3DS and DS games.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh,
Oh, I've seen
wait.
those.
Oh wait.
Oh.
Oh yeah.
That is pretty sweet, man. That is pretty
I
sweet.
kind of want that because I don't have anything to hold my.
I've got a 3D printer file that's similar, but it doesn't expand like that. Well, that's fucking sweet.
Yeah, I was gonna say Derek probably wants that more than anybody. Mr. Mobile over here.
So for the benefit of everybody else, this is a long-standing joke that I have with Soren, which I've now got worse at, is that he buys games and then puts them on the shelf and never fucking plays them. Whereas I've been encouraging him to actually collect his back catalogue via like an Excel spreadsheet rather than investing money in it, and then waiting until he can actually find time to play.
Yeah.
And
But the thing is like, I know. Okay.
shit justification incoming.
No, look.
Buckle up.
I know that it because.
Before you go any further, Derek, I'm gonna pause here. I'll cut this out later. You're what the hell was that?
Well won.
Amazing.
White.
Well, I mean, his initials are MSX, so it's got to be like Xavier, right?
That's a good
Or
guess.
xylophone.
Something badass.
I
What
thought
are we listening
MSX
to?
like the MSX, the old Japanese computer, is what I thought.
I'm sure it is, but
Yeah. Anyway.
It's a mystery as old as time.
Yeah, it's fine. We'll deal with it.
It's because it's totally lame, isn't it?
It's
Not
like xylophone.
Mark Xylophone in his bomb
Mark
shelter.
Xylophone.
Mark S. Xylophone, you
Let's
ass.
give Mark a break. Mark is freezing. He's in Idaho. He's got a pile of snow outside the door right there of his shed. So we'll cut him some slack. Okay.
Guys, I can't tell if like I've annoyed Justin so much that he's just frozen in anger,
He's frozen.
or if he's,
He's
like,
frozen.
Angry.
He's just
There it
he's
is,
giving us
Vincent.
the
He is
death
actually
stare.
Death stare.
Yes.
Justin?
Everybody ready?
He gone.
I think yeah.
Link's Awakening is a good example. I don't think there is a massive difference between.
Soren will fall down and go boom.
Soren's.
Justin was like, I don't want to hear your argument.
God,
I'm done with this conversation.
Soren's back.
Got rid of Soren.
Hang on, what's happened? What's happened?
You literally just
It was
glitched.
this.
You just WWE 2020 this.
Yeah, you did.
Amazing.